Second. It's not playing, so right now I'm going to second page. Just a second. Did you see me change? Which one? Share. Now what? Okay, wait, Mahdi, how do I go back? Okay, now you see? Okay, good. Okay. Let me know when you're ready, Mahdi. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. If those online, just mute yourselves, please. Inshallah, everyone's doing well. تقبل الله أعمالكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So I welcome everyone to the Furu' ad-Din slideshow, the Furu' ad-Din crash course. And my mind is in the slideshow, so the Furu' ad-Din crash course. After Ashura, we did a Usul ad-Din crash course. So we explained Usul ad-Din, and today we're going to, or in the next several sessions, we're going to be explaining Furu' ad-Din. So who knows the difference between Usul ad-Din and Furu' ad-Din? Someone, what's the Usul ad-Din? Yes, Taha? The roots. And Furu' ad-Din is what? The branches. So if you think of Islam as a tree, there's roots and there are branches. The roots, they are the foundation, they are the beliefs. So what are the Usul ad-Din that we believe in? The 5 Usul ad-Din that we have as followers of the Ahl Bayt. Tawheed, believing in the monotheism, in the Tawheed, in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believing in the Adala, believing in the justice of God, believing in the Nubuwah, the prophets, the Imama, and the Ma'ad, believing in the Day of Judgment. These are the beliefs. You cannot take your beliefs from someone else. You have to have conviction when it comes to these. You have to believe in this. So this is what the beliefs are, and we explained why we believe in why we believe in God. Why do we believe that there has to be one God? Why do we believe in the justice of God? Why do we believe in the prophets and the imams and the Day of Judgment? We explained all of that in the Usul ad-Din. In Usul ad-Din, you can't do taqleed. You can't follow someone. You can't say, I'm Muslim because my parents are Muslim. You need to have conviction. You need to have certainty. You need to bring yourself to that belief. And if any one of you is struggling with that, then you need to try to find the truth. Do research, ask questions, do whatever it takes until you are calm and you are rest assured in these Usul ad-Din. Now, when it comes to the Furu' ad-Din, so we said the roots, and then you have the branches. Furu' ad-Din are, right now when you look at a tree, the tree is standing, do you see the roots in the ground? You don't see the roots. The roots might be very deep. The roots might be probably deeper, and they go many feet down in the ground, probably just as high as a tree goes and up, it might go down. You don't see the roots. And the beliefs, no one could come and see your beliefs. People look at you from outside, they don't know what you believe in. They don't know that you believe in the prophets. They don't know that you believe in the imams. This is something internal. However, when you look at a tree, what's the first thing that you look at? You look at its size and you look at the branches, right? So the Furu' ad-Din, they are what is zahir. You have batin and zahir. You have something that is hidden, something that is internal in your faith. And that's the Usul ad-Din, that's the belief in God, the belief in the oneness of God, belief in the Day of Judgment, belief in the Imams and the Prophets. That's something hidden. You don't do anything in the outside to show that. However, the Furu' ad-Din is just like the tree, what's apparent, what you see from the outside. So what are the Furu' ad-Din? The Furu' ad-Din are the practices, the obligations and the practices upon every Muslim. So what is the first of the Furu' ad-Din? That you see someone, you might be in the airport, you might be outside, and you might see someone doing this, and you say this person's a Muslim. What is it? Salah. Salah, prayer. As soon as you see someone praying, because Salah is a reflection of what's inside. So when you believe in God, when you have that usul ad-Din, how does that reflect into action? How does that manifest into action? Through Salah. What else? Saum, Hajj, Zakat, Khums. So, Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahi al Munkar, Tawalli, Tabarri, Jihad. These are the Furu' ad-Din. So, how many Usul ad-Din do we have? 5. How many Furu' ad-Din do we have? 10. The Furu' ad-Din are 10. So, we are going to, inshallah, in these sessions, we already explained the Usul ad-Din. If anyone has any questions about Usul ad-Din, then also feel free to ask. But now we're going to be focusing on Furu' ad-Din. So these are the Furu' ad-Din: the Salah, the Saum, the Hajj, the Zakat, the Khums, the Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahi an al Munkar, Tawalli awliya illah, wa tabarri min a'da illah, and Jihad. So you have two of them. They're basically opposites, binaries. And that's Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi al Munkar, and Tawalli and Tabarri. Those will go together in one session. We will explain them. And today we will explain Salah. There's going to be a day we're going to explain Zakat and Khums and Hajj and fasting. And inshallah we will go through all of them. So now go to the next slide. How do I know what God expects of me? So we said that you believe in God. You've come to the conviction that there's a God. But how do I know what this Lord expects of me? What are my sources of legislation in Islam? There are 4 sources of legislation for every Muslim. Especially we, the followers of the Ahl Bayt, we have 4 sources, adillah, for the ahkam. Meaning, if I want to derive a law, right now, a marja', a scholar, whatever it is, they want to derive a law. Where do they go to derive these laws? What is the first source of laws in Islam? The Quran. The Quran is the first source of laws in Islam. There are about 500 verses in the Quran that are referred to as ayatul ahkam, verses of law. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, gives us laws of prayer, laws of fasting, laws of Hajj, many different laws. And the first source that you look at in deriving law and seeing what God expects from me is the Quran. Okay, after the Quran, where do we go to get law? Hadith. But which hadith? Authentic one from who? The 12 Imams, and who else? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. So this is one difference between Sunni and Shia Islam, is that, for example, a Sunni Muslim, they might see what a Sahabi, one of the companions of the Prophet, said. They say, this is hujjah upon me. This is proof upon me. As long as one of the Sahaba said, for example, you pray like this, you do this, you do something. They say, okay, the Sahaba said this, I'm going to take it. For us, the followers of the Ahl Bayt, because remember in the Usul ad-Din, we talked about Nubuwah and we talked about Imama. Those are our leaders. Those are the sources that we take as authentic sources of deriving Islamic law. So who do I go to? I take my law from the Quran and I take it from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. Because the Quran tells me, مَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. What the Prophet told you to do, you do. What the Prophet told you not to do, you do not do. So I go to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. Okay, now the Prophet died. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa passed away. Who do I follow after the Prophet? Who brings me to the Prophet? Yes? The Imams of the Ahl Bayt. The Imams of the Ahl Bayt, they bring me to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa, and Rasulullah is one of the sources of deriving Islamic law. So you have the Quran and the Sunnah. When we say sunnah, we mean the sunnah, meaning it means the tradition of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whatever the Prophet did. And when I follow Imam Ali, when I follow Imam Hussein, when I follow Imam al-Sadiq and Imam al-Baqir, I follow them because why? Why do I follow Imam Hussein and Imam Ali? Because they bring me closer to what? To the Prophet. They bring me closer to the Sunnah. They're the closest people to the Prophet. So therefore, when I follow them, I know I'm following someone that's reliable. I know I'm following someone that God has allowed to be a representative of the faith. And the Holy Prophet says, إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنِ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَعِتْرَةِ أَهْلَ بَيْتِ. I am leaving behind the thaqalain, the two weighty things, the book of Allah and my Ahl al-Bayt. Okay, so Quran and Sunnah. And then what's two other sources of deriving Islamic law? What are they? You could look at the slide. You can't see? Oh, so we need to make it bigger and clearer. So what is it? So the aql and ijma'. You have ijma', Quran, Sunnah, ijma', aql. These are the four sources of Islamic law. Quran, Sunnah, ijma', aql. Meaning that the first is the Quran, the second is the Sunnah, the words of the Prophet and the Imams of the Ahl Bayt. And then you have consensus and intellect. So what is the consensus? The consensus on its own, this is a topic that's studied in Usul al-Fiqh. The ijma' and the aql, it uses ration and it uses intellect to help derive Islamic law. But independently, it cannot derive Islamic law. Right now, I can't use my aql to see, okay, does it make sense? Maybe my aql tells me it makes more sense to pray, for example, Fajr, instead of doing 2 rak'ahs, let me do 5 rak'ahs. Right? More is better. That's what my aql tells me. But Allah tells me, no, this is what I've given you. But the aql, the reason, tells me I have to believe in God. I have to worship God. It makes sense to see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering me to do. And the ijma' means consensus, meaning everyone is doing this. Something that 100% of the people are doing. So I come and I say, since 100% of the people are doing, then there must be a reason why everyone is doing it, because the Prophet is doing it, or the Imams of the Ahl Bayt, or the Ma'soom is doing it. So these are the four sources of law in Islam. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because we're going to be doing Furu' ad-Din, which have to do with law. So we have to see, how do I know that this is wajib on me? How do I know that this is expected of me? Okay, now another level. Now for these four that we were talking about, these are for the mujtahid, the scholar, the one who's in the hawza, they want to derive Islamic law. For someone like you and I, someone who's living and we are not going to the hawza, or someone who is not very, I don't really have that much knowledge. I have 3 options, 3 ways to figure out what my religious duties are. What's expected of me? Right now, for example, I know Salah is wajib on me. I know Hajj is wajib upon me. I know Zakat and Khums are wajib upon me. But I don't know the details. I don't know for example, if I doubted in my prayer, if I recited one thing wrong, I made a mistake here and there. What do I do? Here I have 3 options. The first option is that I have to myself become an expert in Islamic law. It means I have to go, put my life on hold, and I have to go and study in the hawza of Qom, the hawza of Najaf, and I have to study for maybe 10, 15, 20 years until I become a mujtahid. I become an expert, someone like a PhD, for example, and then I will be able to derive Islamic law on my own. So I will be able to understand from the Quran, from the Sunnah, from the Ijma' and the Aql, and I come and I see if there's any contradictions, any differences, anything that is not understandable. There are 2 narrations that might conflict with one another. I have to learn which one is prioritized, how to accept a reliable hadith, how to reject a hadith. It takes a lot of time. This is one option that I have, to become a mujtahid. What's the second option that I have? What's the second option? Yes. Okay, that was the third option. The second one is which option? The second option is to become the first option, become a mujtahid. The second option is what? Ihtiyat. What does ihtiyat mean? Ihtiyat means I have to do precaution in every scenario that there might be differences. So for example, sometimes there are differences in some issues. For example, one marja', one hadith says eating seafood, eating everything in the ocean is halal. Another opinion says no, you only eat the fish with scales and shrimp. One hadith says everything in the ocean is halal. Another one says you only eat the fish with scales and the shrimp. What's the ihtiyat? What's the path of precaution? So I can't eat everything. One opinion says I could break my fast at sunset. As soon as the sun is setting, it's not dark out, but my phone tells me the sun sets. And another opinion, another hadith says, no, wait until it becomes a little bit darker. Wait until it becomes a little bit dark in the horizon, then that's when it's Maghrib. What's the precautionary thing to do? Wait longer. So in every scenario, you have to know the differences. You have to know what this hadith says, what this hadith says, and I always take the precautionary path. This is also not very easy because you need to know the difference of opinion. You need to know the different opinions. If I don't know what the two or three opinions, sometimes it's impossible to come and try to bring two opinions together. So this brings us to the third option. What is the third option? Taha? Follow a marja', taqleed. Taqleed. Today some people, they come and they ask, why do we do taqleed? Why do I have to follow a marja'? Someone who lives 6,000 miles away, I have to come and follow this person? Well, we're not just following a person blindly. We're following, first of all, when it comes to usul ad-din, when it comes to the belief in God, the belief in the Prophet, the belief in the Day of Judgment, the major principles of the faith, the roots of the faith, I can't do taqleed. But, for example, when it comes to dowering and prayer, when it comes to Hajj, when it comes to khums, zakat, these very detailed laws, I don't know the details. And I have not gone to the hawza to study for that such a long time to become a mujtahid. I don't know the rules of ihtiyat. The easiest thing is to do what? Taqleed. Follow a marja'. Who do I follow? You follow an expert. And we do this. We do this all the time. Right now, if your teeth are hurting, who do you go to? Do you go to the dentist or do you go to the plumber? You go to the dentist. You make sure that you go to the expert. When you want to build a house, you go to the architect. When you want to do everything, you go to the expert in the field. And when it comes to Islamic law, we go to the fuqaha. We go to the jurists, the maraja', because they have dedicated their life in this field and they are experts in this field. And of course, not anyone who just has knowledge. من كان من الفقهاء صائنا لنفسه محافظا لدينه مخالفا لهواه مطيعا لأمر مولاه. This is the hadith of Imam al-Askari. He says, whoever is from the fuqaha, who has preserved themselves, meaning they don't do the haram, they don't follow their desires, there's a lot of conditions, then this person you can connect with and you could follow this person as a marja'. Okay, now can we go to the next slide? Prayer in the Quran. So we know that the first obligation, the first of the Furu' ad-Din is what? The first of the Furu' ad-Din is the Salah. So prayer, where is prayer? We said the ahkam are the laws. The first place that we look at the laws is where? The Quran. So does God talk about prayer in the Quran? Yes, it's mentioned many times in the Quran. إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. It is truly, I am Allah. There is no God worthy of worship except me. So worship me alone and establish prayer for what? لِذِكْرِي. What does that mean? For my remembrance. Pray to remember God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, pray so that God is on your mind at all times. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "Utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitabi wa aqim as-salat. Inna as-salata tanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar wa la dhikrullahi akbar wallahu ya'lamu ma tasna'un." Allah says in the Quran, recite the Quran and pray. Why? Because prayer, genuine prayer, should deter one from indecency and wickedness. Genuine prayer is going to protect your life. It's a means of protection. It's a means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you. Allah will cleanse you. And this is what prayer does. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are all laws of verses of law in the Quran. أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ وَقُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ إِنَّ قُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ كَانَ مَشْهُودًا. Allah gives us the times of the prayer. How many times does the Quran mention? 3. How many prayers do we pray a day? 5. But Allah mentions 3 times. أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ. Observe the prayer from the decline of the sun until the darkness of the night, and the dawn prayer. For certainly the dawn prayer is witnessed by the angels. So this is Quran, the prayer mentioned in the Quran. Next slide, please. Prayer in the Sunnah. Prayer in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. The Holy Prophet, he also spoke about prayer. And the Holy Prophet, when Allah talks about salah, the Holy Prophet, he would come out and he prays. And Rasulullah says, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." Pray the way you see me pray. What does this mean? Can I go and make up another form of prayer? Can I go and pray a prayer that the Prophet never prayed? No. I pray the way the Prophet prayed. And this is why it's a very big deal for us. We have to try to emulate and follow the Prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. So what did the Prophet say about prayer? He says, مَثَلُ الصَّلَاةِ مَثَلُ عَمُودِ الْفِسْطَاطِ إِذَا ثَبَتَ الْعَمُودِ نَفَعَتِ الْأَطْنَابِ وَالْأَوْتَادِ وَالْغِشَاءِ وَإِذَا انْكَسَرَ الْعَمُودِ لَمْ يَنْفَعْ طَنْبٍ وَلَا وَتَدْ وَلَا غِشَاء. The example of the prayer is like the pole of a tent. If the pole is firm, then the pegs and the ropes and the covering will be useful. But if the pole is broken, the pegs, the ropes, and the covering will not be of any benefit. That's like, as-salatu amududdin. It's the pillar of the faith. Right now you have pillars. In a tent or in a room, you have pillars. If there's no pillars, is this ceiling, is this roof going to help me? It's of no value. Are these walls going to benefit me if there's no pillars? No, nothing. So you need to have pillars. And the Holy Prophet, he compares salah with the pillars of a room, the pillars of a tent. In another hadith, Rasulullah says, "Inna salata qurbanul mu'min." Salah is the qurban. Qurban means it is the form of drawing near. It brings you closer. From qareeb, qurba, it brings you closer to Allah. It brings the believer closer to Allah. Inna salata mi'rajul mu'min. In another hadith, prayer elevates the believer. It brings the believer closer to Allah. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. So we mentioned prayer in the Quran and we mentioned prayer in the Sunnah. Now prayer in the, I'm sorry, the font size, inshallah, for the next slides, I'll make them bigger so that they'll be easily readable. In consensus, when it comes to consensus, meaning ijma', right now you see all Muslims, despite the many differences within Muslims, do you find 2 Muslims that say prayer is not wajib? All Muslims will come and tell you prayer is wajib. And prayer is a sign of a Muslim. Right now, if you see a Muslim and they tell you, I don't pray, are you going to really believe this person? No. You're not going to take this person's word because this person is neglecting the most important obligation. So prayer is something very important. And all Muslims, despite the many differences, they all pray. You look at, this is one of the signs of a Muslim. Right now you see, for example, other religions, Christianity, several decades after Jesus, what happened to Christianity? It slowly separated. Spirituality was removed. Laws were removed from Christianity. Now, you see Christians, for example, they pray once a week. Did Jesus only pray on Sunday? Did Jesus only pray once a week, 1 hour a week? Of course not. Jesus used to pray. Jesus used to fast. Even the Bible describes Jesus as prostrating the same way we Muslims prostrate. Unfortunately, you see, when people are not connected with their leadership in the proper way, you see, they slowly begin to deviate. And this is what happened to many other religions. This is why we as Muslims, if we want to stay connected to our faith, we have to follow the Prophet and we have to continue with our prayer. Now, as for the aql, this is consensus. As for the aql, the intellect, it makes sense to pray. Why does it make sense to pray? Can some of you give me a few reasons why it makes sense to pray? Yes. We thank Allah. So historically, before Islam, first of all, is it only Muslims that pray? No. You see millions of people, billions of people, they all pray. Historically, right now, you go and you look up archaeological sites and you see there are signs that these people used to pray. Why would people pray? Even before Islam, before Rasulullah, before Ibrahim, why would people pray? Okay, to be connected. Historically, people would want to be connected for two very important reasons. And this is why people all over the world, right now you find a Hindu person, you find a Buddhist person, you find people from all different religions, they have some form of spirituality, some form of prayer. Why? For two reasons. One is shukr al-mun'am, and the second is daf' al-dharar. People, we have the instinct to protect ourselves. So how do I protect myself? I protect myself in two ways. One is repel any harm, daf' al-dharar. So people, even now, why do I pray? I pray because I don't want to go to the hellfire. I pray because I don't want anything bad to happen to me. I'm staying connected with God because that's one reason why we are motivated to pray. Because if we stop praying, harm will come our way, so we continue praying. Second reason is shukr al-mun'am. If I see a blessing come my way, I want that blessing to increase. So what do? I thank the one that gave me that blessing. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are two reasons why the aql, the intellect, tells us it makes sense to pray. To repel any harm, so you pray, and to thank Allah so that the blessings will continue to pour down on you. So this is why people pray. And then for another benefit of prayer is that salah gives us a sense of belonging. You're turning to a higher power. It puts organization and structure in your life. Right now when you pray, prayer puts a lot of organization and structure in your life. You might not realize it because we take the prayer for granted. Right now when you wake up in the morning and you pray, and then you have the Fajr prayer, that forces you to wake up. That forces you to wake up, wash your face, you go and you pray. The Dhuhr, the Asr prayer, the Maghrib, the Isha, organizes your day. This is one. Second, prayer forces us to be clean. You know, something very beautiful about Muslims is that we have to wash ourselves. We have to clean ourselves from najasa. We have to always be clean. You're always washing your face. You're washing your hands. You have to do a ritual shower, a ghusl every once in a while. Why? In order to pray. So prayer forces you to be clean. Prayer puts a lot of organization and structure in your life. Can we go to the next slide, please? The breakdown of salah. So how many prayers do we have a day? 5 prayers. How many rak'ahs do we do in a day? 17 rak'ahs. How? You have 2 in the morning, and then you have 4, and then you have 4, and then you have 3, and then you have 4. That's a total of 17 units, 17 rak'ahs. 17 times we do ruku' and bow down. So what are some of the necessary, of course, this isn't a prayer crash course. We're just going through this quickly. But if anyone has questions, this is probably the most important type of worship in our faith. So if you don't know prayer, this is the time to learn. This is the time to learn the prayer and make sure that you are doing it correctly. Because many times, if we are not doing it correctly, then we end up having to repeat it. We end up later on finding out that we are not doing it correctly, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. You really want to make sure that you're doing your salah and your wudu and your ghusl and all of that properly. So what are some of the necessary prerequisites for ibadah? Ibadah, and specifically salah. Ibadah means worship. Can you, yes. Stay in breakdown of salah. So the first is what? Yes. Your sanity, meaning you have to be present. Yes. So will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does it make sense for Allah to make something obligatory upon someone that does not comprehend and understand? Does a baby have to pray, for example? No, because the baby doesn't understand. The moment you have the aql and you understand, then salah becomes wajib on you. And ibadah and worship becomes wajib upon you. And this is what makes the human being different from all other creation. Now, of course, animals and birds and all other creation, they all do tasbih. They all glorify Allah. They pray in their own way. But someone might ask, why do I have to pray? You have to pray because you have the aql, you have the reason. You understand that a Lord created you. You understand that there are obligations. You understand that you have to continue thanking the blessings of God upon you, and so that the blessings continue your way. So this is number one, sanity. You have to have the aql. Second, condition for wujub, condition for taklif is what? Bulugh, meaning you have to be baligh. You have to reach the age of puberty. That is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expect from you. Does Allah expect from, for example, a 6-year-old child? No, because the child is still young. But once you become baligh, once you become physically mature, that's when your body is capable, you're physically mature, then it becomes wajib upon you to pray. Now, say for example, someone was physically mature, but they did not have the sanity. They were in a coma, for example. Then Allah is not going to expect from them. But if they reach the age of puberty and they have the aql to understand right from wrong and they make some decisions, then it becomes wajib upon them. So bulugh, the age of bulugh, for the majority opinion for girls is at the age of 9 Hijri. 9 in the Hijri calendar, meaning 8 years and 8 months and a couple days. And some other scholars, they say, there are some maraja, there are some living maraja right now, they say no, a girl becomes mukallaf when she is at the age of 13. So if you do taqleed of that marja, then you could follow that. But other maraja and the majority of the maraja, they say out of precaution, we say no, let her start at 8 years and 8 months at the age of 9 Hijri. As for the boys, they become baligh also when the signs of puberty show. But does that mean that they do not pray? Does that mean that they do not pray like when they're 10 or 11 or 12? No, they have to start praying. In fact, we have hadith from the imams, and Rasulullah, he says to the fathers, command your children to pray when they become 7. Even if it's not wajib on them. But they have to learn. There are some people, they're 14, 13 years old and 14, and now they don't even know how to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. So how are you going to pray if you don't know how to recite? This is why it's the duty of the parents to basically pressure their children and encourage them to start praying at a young age, at the age of 7, both boys and girls. Now the age of bulugh, the age of puberty for boys might be a little bit later than girls, because physically the boys will go through puberty a little bit later, but that does not mean that they should start their ibadah later. They should all start at a younger age, and they comprehend. A 7, 8, 9-year-old, they begin to comprehend. Get yourself in the mood to pray. so that when it's wajib on you, then you are ready to go ahead and pray. Okay, another prerequisite for ibadah and salah is when the time of prayer happens. Can I pray before the time of prayer? No, the time of prayer. Another is the qibla. You have to face Mecca. And another very important one is to be in purity. You have to be in the state of ghusl. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, I want to go through this quickly, but this is very important because la salata illa bi tahur. There are people, maybe they're praying for 20, 30 years, and then they come and they find out that they were doing their wudu wrong. They were doing their ghusl wrong. If this is because of their own lack of finding the truth, their own disregard, then this person is going to have to redo their prayer if they did not do their wudu and their ghusl correctly. So this is why it's very important to make sure that you're doing it correctly. Why do we need to do ghusl and why do we need to do wudu? You do ghusl when there's a hadath al-akbar. There's a major cause that causes you to have to do ghusl. For example, if someone, for example, had a female had her menstrual cycle, after the menstrual cycle, the hayd or the nifas, or there was intercourse, that these would require ghusl. Wudu by itself is not enough. You have to go and take a shower. But then there are certain things that require wudu. For example, I slept. I used the restroom. These type of things, they require just wudu. But there are certain things that require ghusl, other things require wudu. If it's wajib and it requires the ghusl, then the ghusl will suffice for the wudu. But the wudu does not suffice for the ghusl. So sometimes wudu is wajib, sometimes ghusl is wajib. You need to know what is obligatory upon yourself. And now you're all growing, you're all at the age where you might experience something that might basically cause for you to go and you have to do a ghusl. So you might have to do ghusl and you might have to do wudu. How do you do a ghusl? You do ghusl through the first thing, because it's an act of worship, it's a ibadah. So what does that mean? By the way, why are we talking about ghusl and wudu? Because ghusl and wudu are prerequisite for salah. I can't just go and say Allahu Akbar and I have not done my ghusl if I needed to. I can't go and say Allahu Akbar and I haven't done wudu. I need to do wudu. After I use the restroom, I need to do wudu. So there are certain times and certain reasons. Ghusl, because it's an act of worship, it requires niyyah. What is niyyah? Can someone tell me what niyyah is? What is it? Intention. Why do we do intention? What's the point of intention? What are you doing in the intention? You're saying what you're about to do, and who are you doing it for? And you know you're doing this for God. So I know what I'm doing, and I know that I'm doing it for God. I'm not just going in the shower because it's hot. I'm not just doing something because I just wanted to clean myself. No, I'm doing the ghusl because it's a ibadah. I'm doing it for God and it's an act of worship. That's one. I'm going to go quickly over the ghusl and over the wudu, just so we quickly, understand this. You begin with the ghusl. I'm sorry, I have the slideshow is wrong here. So I put the wrong one, but I'll explain what the ghusl is. Mahdi, can you open it and make the changes? Ahsant, Mahdi. So the ghusl is you do the niyyah, and then you wash the head. You wash your head. On Zoom it's not changing, but on that one it's changing. So you begin by doing the niyyah, and then you wash your whole head, making sure water gets everywhere. Okay? And then you wash the whole right side of the body, and then the whole left side of the body. That's it. This is ghusl. That is the ghusl. You wash niyyah, washing of the head, wash the right side of the body, and wash the left side of the body. And, yes. Head and neck, yes. Head and neck, these are together. The head and the neck go together, and then you do the right side of the body and the left side of the body. You have to make sure that water reaches everywhere. So say, for example, I had a sticker, or I had paint or something on my hand, on my shoulders, wherever, I have to remove it. You have nail polish. Some of the sisters use nail polish. If I have nail polish, based on the majority of most of the scholars, the majority of the scholars, they say nail polish blocks the ghusl and the wudu. So you have to remove it so that water reaches everywhere in your body. You could apply it later on after. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's not zina. It's not a type of adornment and makeup that's attracting bad attention. But as for the wudu and the ghusl, you have to remove it. So this is with regards to the ghusl. Now the wudu. The wudu. By the way, the ghusl, you also could do it in two ways. There's tartibi and irtimasi. Irtimasi means you have a pool, you have a body of water, or an ocean, or a lake, and you say, I do niyyah of doing ghusl, qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala, and you jump in. You jump in, this counts as the ghusl. If you don't have that, then you have to wash your head, you do the niyyah and wash the head and the neck and then the right side and then the left side. Now, wudu. Can I just jump in the water for wudu? No. And here's a very important, if I'm in the shower, can I do wudu in the shower while the water is pouring on me? No. Because the Quran says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. So there are parts of the body that need to be washed, and there are parts of the body that need to be wiped. If I'm wiping something, it means I have to have a wet hand that wipes something that has to be dry. What are the parts that are washed and what are the parts that are wiped? What do you wash? Your face and your hands and arms. And what do you wipe? Your head and your feet. So the wudu begins with a niyyah. Also, any ibadah, even when you're giving khums, you're giving zakat, you're praying, whatever you're doing, it has to begin with ibadah. It has to begin with niyyah, intention. Second, wash of the face. You have to make sure the whole face is washed. You take water once, you wash, you make sure water reaches everywhere, and you don't go up. Some people, they go up. Even in the hands, they go up. Nope, you come down always. You come down this way. You take water once, you wash. You need to take water a second time and you wash. That's good. Can you take water a third time? No. You only wash the face twice. Third time will make it batil. First time is okay. Second time mustahab. Third time batil, void. Then you wash the right arm. You wash the right arm beginning with above the elbow, because you want to make sure the whole elbow is washed. I see some people, they begin like this and they put their hand like right here where the elbow is above them and they start going down. No, begin above the elbow and come down. Begin above the elbow and come down. And don't do this. Some people do this. You can't do that. You have to just come down. You remove it and you come down and you make sure water reaches everywhere. You move your ring if you're wearing it. Make sure water reaches everywhere, and you come all the way to your fingertips. One mistake I've seen some people do, because their hand was already wet when they were washing their face, so that when they're washing their hand, they come all the way only up to here. They only come up to their wrist. You have to go all the way. That requires to be washed. Yes, sister. You could do that. That's mustahab. That's recommended. I'm just focusing on the wajib. Take it from the left hand and put it. But yes, that's fine. But you could take water from the right and do this and then that. That is recommended. You don't want to do that? That's fine. So you wash your right hand and then you wash the left hand. Same thing. You only wash twice. You can't wash more than twice. And same with the left. Now you close the faucet and you wipe your head. Just come all the way from the dome of the head and come down. Come down. If you have hair, a lot of hair, you have to kind of move the hair and then go in between. But if you just have normal size hair, then there's nothing wrong with that. And then you wipe the top of your foot, beginning with the right and then the left, or both at the same time, but not the left and then the right. So imagine this is a foot, here are your toes, and then You just wipe like this on top of the foot. This is the Ka'b. You wipe that. So this is the way to do the wudu. Yes, sister. It has to be dry in a way where it will someone will come and say that she actually wiped with a wet hand on something that is less wet. Yes, or dry. So even if sometimes it's a little bit moist, it's okay. But it should be dried so that when people say, yeah, this was actually a masha, this was actually a wipe. Yes. No, the wajib, like the ghusl al-janaba, ghusl al-hayd, those ones for sure. But the Jum'ah, some scholars say no. Some scholars say you might have to do wudu. It depends on the marja' that you're following. As long as it's water, it's not like you're jumping in lemonade or something. As long as when people look at it, they say this is water, then it would be considered okay. Yes. The tips? You don't have to wipe all the tips. So وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. So as long as you just wipe on top, that's fine. Yes, you just wipe on top. And even the head, you don't need to wipe the whole head. The Imam al-Sadiq, he tells his companion, you don't wipe the whole head. You only wipe part of the head. He tells him, where is this in the Quran? I believe Zurara. He tells him, where is this in the Quran? The Imam tells him, لِمَكَانِ الْبَاءِ. Because Allah says in the Quran, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. The Quran doesn't say, وَامْسَحُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ. The Quran says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. That means part of the head. So he tells him, لِمَكَانِ الْبَاءِ. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so there are mandatory steps for prayer. There are some steps that are referred to as rukun, and there are some things that are not rukun. What is the difference between rukun and something that is not a rukun? What's a rukun? Yes. So if you don't do it intentionally or accidentally, the salah becomes valid. So if this rukun is something that is so important that if you even forgot it accidentally, it wasn't on purpose, you didn't do it, the salah becomes invalid. But there are other things, they're wajib in the prayer. If I miss out on them and ignore them purposefully, salah becomes invalid. But if I forgot, if I made a mistake in it, the salah could be fixed. It doesn't become invalid. So the rukun is very important. What are the 5 arkan of the salah? The 5 arkan of the salah, which is something that intentional or accidental error in these invalidates the prayer. That's it. You have to redo the whole prayer. The one is niyyah. Say, I was praying, but I was praying so other people see me. I wasn't doing it for God. I didn't know what I was praying. I just get up, Allahu Akbar, and I don't know what the prayer I'm doing. So you need to know what you're doing. If someone asks you, what prayer was that? You can't just say, oh, it was, I don't know, it was just one of the prayers. No. If it's wajib, you have to know what you're doing. Now, if it's mustahab, yeah, you could go in a masjid and pray 50 rak'ahs. But if it's the wajib prayer, you need to have hudur, meaning you need to know what you're doing and who you're doing it for. That's niyyah. Second is that the salah begins with qiyam, unless you have a legitimate excuse. So when we pray, we have to begin with what? Standing. I can't say, oh, wallah, today I got tackled in football, and now I want to start with, I just want to sit and pray. No. Unless you can't stand. If you can't stand, then that's something else. But if you are able to stand, you have to stand. It's not an optional thing. I know some people, they stand with you, they argue for 10 minutes about why I need to sit and pray. But they're standing and arguing with you for 10 minutes. And then when it comes to prayer, they act like they're senior citizens. So no, you have to stand and pray. I've seen 90 and 100-year-old people, they stand and they pray. So standing, qiyam. And this is something very important. This is, you know, in the airplane, sometimes you have to pray in the airplane. Here, a lot of people, they make this mistake. I have the option to stand on my seat, right? Unless especially if it's those long haul flights, the airplane's a little bit bigger, you could stand in your seat. If you're praying in your seat, first of all, you have to try to go somewhere in the back so that you could do the ruku' and the sujood. But say they told you you can't do ruku' and sujood. So they tell you stay in your seat and pray. Do I stay in my seat by sitting and praying? Or do I have to stand in the time of qiyam? I have to stand. And then when it's ruku', I sit and I do ruku'. And then I sit and I do the sujood. But in the time of qiyam, I have to stand. So this is something, or in the masjid, wherever it is, it begins with qiyam. Another is takbiratul ihram. What does takbiratul ihram mean? It's when I say Allahu Akbar and I begin the salah. I initiate the salah through saying takbiratul ihram. So the niyyah is before. Then when I begin, that's like starting the engine. It's saying Allahu Akbar and beginning. Sometimes, you know, I've heard some people, they just begin, they stand and they start reciting Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. They don't say the Allahu Akbar. You'd be amazed at what we've seen. So, and this is why it's very important for us to learn, for us to seek knowledge. Takbiratul Ihram. Why is it called Takbiratul Ihram? Ihram. Because the moment you say Allahu Akbar, everything becomes haram upon you. Just like when you're entering into Ihram, when you're doing tawaf, when you do the Umrah or the Hajj, you enter into Ihram, you make things haram on you. When I say Allahu Akbar, that means I can't start talking to someone. I can't turn around, move, do things. Some people, they're like, oh, yallah, you know, it's okay. When I want to talk, I'll talk. No. Now I'm in the form of ibadah. I have to stand like a slave to God. Yes, sister. If you started out wrong, with what? If you said the wrong niyyah, you could cancel it and say the niyyah again and say Allahu Akbar again. If you didn't know what you were doing. Yes, brother. That doesn't invalidate. That one we'll talk about later. Mixing between third and fourth, you just consider it the fourth and you finish the prayer and then you get up and you say Allahu Akbar and you do one rak'ah. And you add one. So that if it was the fourth, you're done. You're not adding another rukun. And if it was not the fourth, then you're adding the fourth rak'ah that you have to, if it was the third. So now we said the rukun. The rukun meaning something that you cannot mess up in, the niyyah, the qiyam, takbiratul ihram, and the ruku' and the sujood. Ruku' means the number of times you bow. So say it's Maghrib prayer. How many times can I do ruku'? What if I did 2? Invalid. What if I did 5? Just for extra credit. Invalid. There was one of the Bani Umayyah, the caliphs, he was drunk. He got up for Fajr prayer, and instead of praying 2, he prayed, I don't know, 8 rak'ahs or something. And then he turned around and he said, do you guys want more? Yani, if you guys want more, today I have the energy to do more. This is not the way it works. It's ibadah. We have to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to do. So ruku' is a rukun. And what does the ruku' mean? Yes, Brother Mahdi. Yes, that might invalidate the prayer if it was a laugh. Then people are looking at you. Depends what kind of a laugh. But yes, do you want an example of laughs? Okay. So the ruku', how do you do a ruku'? Can someone do a ruku' for me? Abudi, please stand. How do you do a ruku'? So you're standing, you recited Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, you finished it. Come in there in the middle. Now do the ruku'. Yeah, and then you go and then do the ruku'. Okay? So put your hand on your knees and you stick your head out. Yes. For a sister, where do the women put their hands? On their thighs. But for brothers, you put the brothers, they put their hands on their knees. Okay? And then, so after this, what do you have to do? After bowing down, what do you have to do? Allahu Akbar, and then what? And then you go down. So, yes, ahsant, good job, Abudi. So you have to, after bowing down, you have to make sure that your back is as straight as possible. Some people, they're just, you know, like, they don't want to go. You're bowing to Allah. It's a ruku'. Do it all the way, as much as you can. And then after that, you have to stand. You stand for at least 2-3 seconds, and then you go to sujood. I see some people, they go to ruku', and then from the ruku', they dive into the sujood. So after the ruku', you do the ruku', then you stand, and then you go down to the sujood. So this is what a rak'ah is. The rak'ah means you're standing before, and then you go down, and then you stand after. This is what a ruku' is. So, and then this is one of the rukun, and then the final of the arkan is what? The sujood, the prostration. And when we say, so error in sujood will invalidate the prayer. But that means error in 2 sajdas. So when we say sujood, it means 2. It's a unit of 2. It's not 1. So say, for example, I wasn't in my right mind, and instead of doing 2 sajdas, I only did 1. What happens? My salah is batil because I need to do 2 sajdas. But say I added a 3rd sajda. It does not invalidate. If by accident, it does not. So the sujood is prostration. It is 2 in each rak'ah. So each rak'ah has 2 sujoods. So these are the rukun. Now go to the right side of the page, the other side of the page. There are other mandatory steps in prayer where if you intentionally skip these, it will make the salah batal. But if you accidentally did this, then it does not invalidate the salah. So what are they? One is the qira'ah, the recitation of the Quran, the Surah Al-Fatiha, and another full surah. One difference we have with the Sunni school of thought is that they read part of another surah. We have that you should read a whole surah in the Quran after Surah Al-Fatiha. Yes. No, you recite any surah. Any surah, yes. As long as it doesn't have sujood in it, the azaim, the 4 azaim that have wajib sujood, you could recite them. Yes. Then it's okay. If you're done with the prayer and you have any doubt in it, then you consider it batil. You consider it correct. Yes. Okay, so the qira'ah, the dhikr, the tasbihat in the 3rd and 4th rak'ah. So in the 3rd and 4th rak'ah, you could recite either Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar 3 times, or you recite Surah Al-Hamd, Al-Fatiha 1 time. You have the option. And then the tashahhud and the salam. Another mandatory step in the prayer is the tartib. It needs to be in consecutive. So meaning that I can't say Allahu Akbar and then I just, take a pause and then I do ruku' and then you have to be going one after the other. And this is the same with wudu and mu'alat, continual and uninterrupted. So tartib meaning you have to follow the steps. I can't do sujood and then ruku' and then qiyam, do it the opposite. No, I have to follow the order and they need to be one after the other. Next slide, please. Things that invalidate the prayer. So these are certain things that will invalidate the salah. Not complying with the mentioned prerequisites of prayer. So for example, I don't have wudu, I don't have tahara, appropriate and pure clothing and place of prayer. Second, losing wudu. If I didn't have wudu, that will invalidate my prayer. Takfir. What does takfir mean? Folding hands in the prayer. Folding of the hands in prayer. Why? Now for non-Shia, they say this is what they believe, this is the Sunnah. This is the Sunnah prayer. For them it's okay. But for me, I know for a fact that the Prophet did not pray like that. Because Imam Sadiq and Imam Ali and the Imams of the Ahl Bayt, they told us to put our hands down in prayer. So because they told me that, and I have to pray the way the Prophet prayed. So now, can I come and do something else that's not what the Prophet did in the Salah? No. If I do anything otherwise, it will make my Salah batil, unless you fear for your life. So say, for example, you went somewhere, and they had a gun pointed at you, and if you put your hands down, and this is something that's happened. You know, when Daesh, when ISIS, they took over Syria and Iraq, they went and they saw Shi'as and they told them, Yalla, pray. As soon as this person prays the Salah of a Shi'i, they would kill him right away. So if you fear for your life, then you're allowed to do taqiyya. And turning of the body in prayer. Can I turn around in Salah? No. I see sometimes some of the kids, when they're praying, they turn their head and they think it's a game. So no, you have to. You can't turn your body. Can you talk in Salah? Yes, sister. Yes, your eyes, you could take your eyes off, but your head, you should not move it, and your body, you should not move. Yes. Why would you do that? If you really felt like you had an itch or something, you could do that, but you shouldn't. When you're in your Salah, you should try to focus on your Salah. But that might not invalidate the prayer. Because turning your body in the prayer. Talking in the Salah. Can we talk in the Salah? Say someone came in, or I pick up the phone, hey guys, I'm praying. And then, can someone do something like that? No, you can't do that. Can you say Ameen in the Salah? What does Ameen mean? A lot of the people that say Ameen, they don't even know what it means. If you're saying it as if it's a dua, it's a dua. It means Allahumma stajib. Oh Allah, answer. If you're saying it as a dua, you could say it anywhere in the Salah. Because dua, you could say in the prayer. When you're talking, for example, you raise your hand, you could ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you speak to God. You could say whatever you want in the Salah. But preferably the qunut should be the qunut that is mentioned, like Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, and the qunut that is mentioned. Yes.
So I've heard that if you're praying and someone says salam, you're allowed to say wa alaikum salam. Is that true?
Yes. If you're praying, the only talk is if someone said salam, and if someone said salamu alaikum, you reply salamu alaikum. Yes. If someone said salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you reply salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You just reply the bare minimum that you could. And this is if someone came in the room and they said salam, but there's 20 of us here and I was praying, they have to answer. If they did not answer, then it becomes wajib on me to answer. But I'm praying. So say yes. Yes, you could. I mean, you should say it as if you're like you're not talking to them in Allahu Akbar. You're going to the next step, like Subhana Rabbi or Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. You know, just to raise your voice to let them know that you're in prayer. Yes. So talking in prayer, unless you're saying Ameen, it's with the intention of, oh Allah, accept my dua, then it would be acceptable. Laughing loudly. Laughing will invalidate the salah. Crying. Can we cry in our prayer? Depends what you're crying about. If you're crying because you, for example, for a worldly, someone died, or you're crying because you didn't get that game that you wanted, then no, this will invalidate the salah. But if you're crying out of khushu' for God, you're crying out of fear of Allah, you're crying because you want God in your life, then that would be acceptable. Movements that are not a part of the prayer, clapping, dancing, jumping, are you allowed to do any of that in salah? No. Eating and drinking? No. Doubting in a 2 rak'ah prayer. This is, brother, you asked this question. doubting in a 2 rak'ah prayer, or if you doubt in the first 2 rak'ahs of Fajr prayer, for example, you have any shak in it, it will immediately invalidate. Or between the second and third rak'ah, or in the first 2 rak'ahs of a 4 rak'ah prayer. So you're praying a 4 rak'ah prayer, you doubt in the first 2, that will invalidate. Or between the first and second, or second and third, that will invalidate the prayer. But once you're past the second, if there's any doubt in the third and beyond, then there's a way to fix that. And it's, if you're doubting between third or fourth, you just consider it the fourth. You end the salah, and then you get up and you say Allahu Akbar, and you do one more rak'ah. Yes, sister. You could just do Surah Al-Fatiha. Yes. Okay, so here, this was my last slide. This is for salah. Yes, Taha.
So, what if like I have doubts about 3/3 or 4 rak'ah, but I feel like it's probably 4? Would I go with 4?
No, if you have reason to believe that it's one or the other, more reason to believe, then just go with that one. But if you are 150%, then you would have to figure out the rules of doubt.
I wouldn't have to do the extra 1 rak'ah.
No. Okay, so we are done with the first course, the first class session. Inshallah, there's going to be another session on Wednesday, and we're going to begin right away by talking about another of the Furu' ad-Din. We're going to begin by talking about those. So, inshallah, be prepared for that, and inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And there's a WhatsApp group. I made a WhatsApp group. If you're not in it, come to me so that I could add you in it. If you have any questions, if you have anything, we could share it there, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa